Hi everyone, welcome back to Gardening with Grayson. In today's video I'm going to be demonstrating how to plant up this beautiful Eugenia topiary. So the supplies that I have today are going to be my 21-inch diameter container. This is a Better Homes and Garden container. I picked this up at my local Walmart. It was probably anywhere, I think it was like roughly $26. So I love the design of it, and I thought that it was a great scale for the topiary. I'm going to be using my Miracle-Gro potting mix here. I'm going to be using my Biotone starter fertilizer. This is going to help to promote all of the great root growth. So Biotone starter fertilizer for incredible root growth. I think also I'm going to be planting these marigold around the base of the topiary. I just thought that it would be a fun, rich, saturated color to kind of pop and play off of this green and gray. These are your standard marigolds, and they grow anywhere from, these are annuals, they grow anywhere from like 10 to 12 inches a summer. This Eugenia is growing zones 9 through 11. They're usually more tropical, but in this climate I will probably have to overwinterize them in my garage because they may not survive, especially in this container. Anytime that you plant plants in your container, you always want to go like 2 growing zones lower, because you just never know what can happen. That usually gives you a chance to over-winterize them. So that's what I'll be planting around the base of this Eugenia topiary. So these are great because you can prune them in any shape you want. And I picked these up at my local Home Depot the other day. So the first thing that we're going to do is we've got to run a drip irrigation line to this container. So what I've done is I've gone ahead and I've cut a piece, and what I do is I just measure it, and what I'll do is I'll go ahead and run this in the container now, and then I will hook this up to my irrigation system. So I've cut a piece. I'm just going to run it right up through the drip hole here, right up through the drip hole. And this is going to be about long enough for me here. So we're just going to lay this right to the side. Next, we're going to take our Miracle-Gro potting mix, and we're going to fill up just enough so we can get this topiary in the container. You know, you don't want to fill too much up, you know, because you can always take more out. It's just kind of hard to get it back out. So go ahead and put about half in. Next thing I'm going to do is just kind of measure this. So I need a little bit more. Usually I want this plant to sit up just below the top rim of your container. So we need to add just a bit more in. Let me try to get that stationary so it doesn't topple over on me. These are usually a little top heavy, so be careful with those. They can be a little cumbersome to work with. So go ahead and get our potting mix in, just like that. I think that's going to look perfect, right? Just like that. So let's go ahead and knock our plant can off. And as you can see, that's a very healthy root system, but it's a little root bound. It's been in this container for a while down at the Home Depot. So let's go ahead and loosen this up a bit. I'm just going to use my handy dandy Hori Hori here. This is great. It has a serrated edge. And I'm just going to use that to rough up the roots just a bit. I don't really want to damage them too bad, but I do want to kind of loosen those up. So I just give it a good chop chop. You can always tell when these plants have been in their containers for a while because they start to grow around and around and around the container. So it's probably going to thank me for getting it out of its container. You know, if I lived in Florida or in a different growing zone that was more adaptable to it, I could plant these in the yard and they would survive every year. But I thought they would look great in the container. So I'm just going to kind of manipulate these roots a bit. Just loosen those up a little bit. There's no telling how long this has been in the container. There is no telling. These roots are pretty wound around tight. So I'm going to give that a little bit more. And as you can see, there's really not a lot of soil left in it. There we go. That's kind of loosening things up a bit. It's a beautiful day out today. It's probably 75 here in growing zone 8. I'm in North Carolina on the East Coast, and it's just been beautiful the last couple of weeks. We had a cool spell a couple of weeks ago, but it has turned back nice, and I'm just loving this weather. So I think that's going to do it. As you can see, we just kind of manipulated that root ball to get it to where I think it's going to be happy in this container, and it'll give these roots a chance to grow out now. So let me go ahead and add just a touch more soil. There we go. Touch more soil. Open the second bag here. So this is going to be one of two, but I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate this with one for now. There we go. Perfect. So next thing I want to do is go ahead and add in my Biotone starter fertilizer. This is going to aid in better root development. Since that's been in the can for so long, it's going to thank me for this. So I don't really measure, I just kind of pour a little bit in, scatter it around. This really encourages new roots. So you just go ahead and position that about halfway in. Get my drip out of the way. Just nestle that in. Sometimes these can be a little cumbersome because they're so top heavy. So this one is actually pretty straight. Some of them, the trunk was a little crooked, and I may demonstrate that in the next one, and you kind of almost have to plant it off center to make it look more vertical. So that looks good to me. Just work your soil all around, give it a good push. You just want to make sure that you get all the air pockets out. You want to make sure that that root ball is really coming into contact with your soil. Add a little more soil. Try not to bury that root ball. We just want to bring it up to the top of where it was in the container. And once we water this in, it'll take away any air pockets. It'll kind of settle that soil in nicely. It's going to take about a bag, I guess. So the next thing I'm going to do now that I have this planted is I'm going to go ahead and just fill the bare space or this voided space in with marigolds. Now I could at this point leave it blank. I could choose to put gravel or decorative rocks over here to hide the soil, or I could go in with a spiller like a green potato, like a potato vine. I could go in with a darker potato vine. I could go in with creeping Jenny. I could go in with petunias. I could go in with anything that's going to spill down over the edge. But I just decided to go ahead and use the yellow. I thought that was a nice bright color. So let's go ahead and start with those. So I just make a little hole and pop them in. I'm not even sure how many this will take, but I'm just going to go for it. So whenever I design these containers to keep it all even, I usually do it at like noon and 6, 3 and 9 if you imagine a clock, and that kind of evens it out. And then I go back in and I fill in those spaces. I think these grow anywhere roughly around 10 to 12 inches. This is just a great little annual pack. Sometimes they can be a little troublesome to get them out of the pack. So again, we're going to put these in, and now we're just going to kind of start filling those in where we think they would go. I like to kind of plant things even whenever I'm dealing with one color. Now, if we were dealing with multiple colors, I would probably put those in a little differently. But for this project, we're going to pop these in and keep them pretty balanced. Because I want it to be really nice and full. All right, let's start with that and see how we do. So I will be feeding these weekly with like a liquid Proven Winners weekly water-soluble fertilizer, and that will really help these to grow and really fill in nicely. I just thought the yellow added a fun touch. You know, I really don't use bright yellow in the garden too often, but it really is a visual eye catcher. It really shows up in the garden very well. And once we water these with a once we water these with the Proven Winners water soluble fertilizer, they will really jump in this heat. So it's looking pretty good. So I've got a couple of more. I'm just going to pop these in wherever I think they need to go. These can sometimes lean just a bit, so just pack your soil in. I believe this is going to be our last marigold, so we'll just pop it in, and then we'll water this in. And there you have it. There's our planting project for the day. This is the Eugenia Topiary and marigolds. So thanks so much for watching my channel, and we will see you in the next one.